The motel room was a cage of stale air with a sagging bed in the middle. Tess sat on the edge, the mattress creaking beneath her slight frame, fingers tight around the strap of her worn backpack, the one she lugged every morning to James Monroe Middle School, the one stuffed with dog-eared textbooks and a notebook still covered in last semester's math homework. The air conditioner wheezed like a dying dog. Outside, the neon sign flickered in a stuttering rhythm, casting sickly red shadows that danced on the floor. Somewhere, far off, a truck rumbled down the interstate, its horn a lonely cry swallowed by the dark. The shower sputtered and hissed, steam curling through the thin crack beneath the door. Somewhere inside, the man was singing. The tune was cracked and sour, a warped lullaby scraping the edges of Tess's nerves. It wasn't the song itself, it was the way he sang it, like a predator marking his territory. She could feel the weight of the gun in her bag, heavy and cold, a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. The door to the bathroom creaked open. The man stepped into the room, towel wrapped tight against his beer belly. His mouth was twisted into a scowl as he looked at her sitting there, so still, so quiet. "Shower's getting cold," he said. "You coming or what?" She didn't answer. Tess stood up slow, the weight of the gun suddenly noticeable in her hand. 10 feet between them, but it felt like miles. She raised the pistol, fingers trembling. The man's eyes snapped wide. His hands jerked up, palms out like he was begging for mercy. "What the hell are you doing? You robbing me?" She didn't answer. For a split second, her mind drifted to her big sister. The way she had changed, broken behind sterile walls no one wanted to visit. The quiet that swallowed her. The silence where laughter used to live. The sister who was gone without ever leaving. Destroyed by a man not unlike this one. The gun was cold, her grip unsteady but fierce, fueled by a storm inside her soul. She squeezed the trigger. The shot whispered out of the barrel, a muted pop, like someone snapping a stick in half. The bullet grazed his cheek. He yelped and staggered back, hand slapping his face. Blood welled in a clean, red line just below his eye. Not deep, but enough to make him feel it, enough to scare the hell out of him. Tess didn't move. Her arms were straight out, locked at the elbows. The gun trembled in her grip. Her wrists were buzzed with shock and recoil. The subsonic rounds were quieter than she expected. The man's eyes darted between her and the wall, calculating. He saw the shaking in her arms, the awkward stance, saw her for what she was, not a pro, not even close, just a girl, 14, a baby in a hoodie. Detective Marla Griggs didn't speak when she entered. There was no need. The scene did the talking. Naked body on the stained carpet. White male, mid-40s. His belly spilled over the crease of his hip like doughy bread. 6 holes. Subsonic 22 rounds, no doubt. The type of ammo that didn't require a silencer. She didn't need forensics to tell her. It was the 5th one. Same pattern, same lack of precision, same soft whisper of violence that came in without a bang and left with a whimper. One in the shoulder, one in the cheek, one skimmed across the scalp, shaving hair and leaving a red kiss behind. 2 dug into the drywall beside the dresser, and the last, the important one, right through the eye, left side, clean entry. The socket, a soup of blood and vitreous gel. The eyelid was peeled back like a banana skin, no exit wound. The killer was improving. The others had been messier. Marla stepped closer, careful not to let her boots touch the edge of the blood. It had pooled around the man's shoulders like syrup, still warm. The room smelled like cigarette smoke and urine and something faintly floral. Hotel soap maybe, maybe aftershave, maybe perfume. There was no sign of a struggle, no overturned lamp, no claw marks on the door, no bruises on the man's arms. He hadn't fought, hadn't seen it coming. That was always their mistake. They never believed they were in danger until the muzzle flashed. Griggs crouched, knees popping, ignoring the forensics tech behind her who cleared his throat and shifted on his feet like he might say something. He didn't. Smart man. Marla stared at the face. The way the mouth hung open, just a little, not a scream, not a surprise even. Confusion maybe. "Why are you doing this?" he might have asked, a second before the lights went out. That was the part that stuck with her. They never looked scared, just puzzled, like the killer didn't fit the picture in their head. The brass wanted a man, 2 men even, some vigilante pedo hunter with a partner. That would be easier to swallow. But Marla's gut twisted around a different truth. This killer was a girl, young, maybe barely more than a kid. She moved with caution, hiding behind shadows, carrying a silent fury that didn't roar but whispered. And Marla knew that the next time the killer came for a victim, the shots would be cleaner, deadlier, because this girl was learning, growing, and just getting started. Marla had stared at the same 20 seconds of grainy truck stop footage so many times her eyes felt like they were bleeding pixels. The dinner lights buzzed in washed-out yellow. A long-haul trucker scratched his gut and shuffled inside. A waitress lit a cigarette behind the dumpster, fingers twitching with nicotine-starved grace. Background noise, white noise, but then, there, a blur in navy blue, hood up, head low, slipping past a gas pump like a shadow too thin to be a man. She rewound, played it again, slower. Not the face, never the face. The killer was too smart for that. But it was the walk, subtle. She moved with the softness of a ballet dancer, a little uncertain, but with just enough steel in the spine to say she wasn't afraid of the dark. Petite, narrow shoulders, hips just barely there. Marla sat back and whispered, "Jesus, she's a kid." The room was too quiet. No one to argue with her, no brass to scoff, no partner to call her crazy. And so she chased the ghost down a different alley. She pushed the evidence files aside and pulled up the digital cesspool she'd sworn she'd never dive into again. Teen chat rooms, Roblox, Minecraft servers, Xbox Live, all the places where kids played and perverts hunted. She logged in under a fake name, Lacey13, and entered Dress to Impress, a Roblox game with avatars that looked like Bratz dolls and predators that slithered in through private messages. She struck up a soft little conversation with other girls. "Hey, you play often? Ever get creepy DMs? Anyone try to meet you in real life?" Most girls laughed her off, and some ignored her completely. But a few, just a few, sent messages that made Marla's stomach twist like a gym rope. And that's when it clicked. The pattern. Every victim had a digital trail. They weren't just creeps. They were online creeps. Roblox accounts, Minecraft usernames, and Xbox confessions. This wasn't just vigilante justice. It was bait. And the bait was a child. Marla didn't know whether to catch her or pray for her. The principal had been a wall. Cool, professional, rehearsed to the last syllable. All she offered were polite deflections and a forced smile that never reached her eyes. No names, no help, nothing. So Griggs looked somewhere else. The CPS file landed on her desk in a battered manila envelope, thick with neglect. She flipped through the pages, scanning reports written in rushed handwriting, voices from teachers, nurses, neighbors, each of them raising quiet alarms that no one had time to hear. Then she found it. A year-old report, the Morgan trailer, a break-in, a busted lock, a missing laptop, some costume jewelry taken from a child's drawer. It barely made a dent in the system, but tucked beneath those notes was a CPS call. A teacher had reported a girl, Tess Morgan, showing up to school in tears, saying somebody had broken into their trailer while she was home alone. She hadn't said much, just enough to shake the teacher's nerves. The teacher had known about the mother, about the boyfriend, so she filed a report just in case. It hadn't gone anywhere. Most of them didn't. But it was something. Fragile as glass, thin as paper. Still, a thread. And sometimes, that's all you get. Griggs turned another page and there he was, Bradley Keener, the mother's boyfriend. One-time roofer, full-time dirtbag. Assault charge, drug possession, an illegal gun bust back in '09, and still on probation when the burglary went down. Griggs leaned back, chewing the eraser end off of her pencil. What if she'd taken the gun? What if she staged the break-in, made it look like someone else had done it? And what if Brad never reported it stolen because he wasn't even supposed to have it in the first place? Tess would know that, and nobody would suspect her. Griggs stared out the window. The school parking lot shimmered in the August heat. Clean pavement, white lines, trimmed grass, a picture of order, a lie. Detective Griggs knew evil didn't always hide in basements, and sometimes it mowed the lawn, wore wedding bands, coached Little League, laughed too loud at neighborhood barbecues, logged on after dinner, whispered filth through headsets into bedrooms. Tess Morgan wasn't evil. She was hunting it. This one came fast. Too fast. Like he'd been waiting. The messages practically tripped over themselves. He called himself Uncle Pete, and God, if that wasn't a name that stank of basements and old recliners. He used emojis like a teenager. Winks, tongues, that damn eggplant. Asked if she had Snapchat. Said he liked her vibe. He was clumsy, greasy, bold in a way that didn't feel real. They picked a spot. McDonald's, noon, safe and public, predictable. Surveillance cameras would be everywhere. Witnesses, Happy Meals. Tess nodded along. She packed the gun, not in a holster, not in her waistband like some movie vigilante. No, Tess wrapped it in an old hoodie that still smelled like Tide and anxiety. Tucked it in the bottom of her backpack between a granola bar and a half-dead phone charger. When she walked into the Golden Arches, he was already there. Mid-40s, balding, cargo vest like he was about to go fly fishing in a mall fountain. He waved her over like they were old friends. Something twisted in her gut. Not the usual danger. No goosebumps, no adrenaline. This was clean wrong. Surgical wrong. The kind of wrong that wore cologne and tucked its shirt in. She scanned the place. 2 adults with no kids sat at a corner booth eating McFlurries. A man stood by the soda fountain, phone in hand, but watching, really watching, hair too neat, shoes too clean. This wasn't a perv. This was a setup, a trap. Still, she smiled. She learned to wear masks better than most, played dumb, and bit into her burger like it was just another day. Bathroom, she said, all casual. The stall stank of bleach and lemon. Her hand shook as she unzipped the backpack and pulled back the hoodie. The gun caught the light like it was smiling. No time for doubt. She popped the lid off the wall-mounted trash can, yanked out the liner, dropped the gun into the bottom of the metal container, then replaced the liner. In the mirror, her reflection looked back. Pale, sharp-eyed, jaw set. No fear. Just fire and instincts. She walked out like a girl on her way back to algebra, smiling stupid and playing the role of clueless teenager. The condo wasn't his, not really. The keys had come from a precinct folder, marked seized property, a mid-level dealer's kingdom, gutted by the cops. She sat on the threadbare couch, the cushion sagging beneath her. The man, sweating but still calm, offered her a soda. She shook her head no. "I changed my mind," she said. "I want to go back to school." He waved a hand like she was a kid who needed to sit down and relax. That's when the door burst open. Griggs stormed in, SWAT behind her, guns raised and voices clipped like orders in a war zone. "Tess Morgan, hands behind your back." Tess didn't move, didn't fight. The cuffs clicked tight around her wrists. They rifled through the backpack. Empty, no gun, nothing. Griggs led her out of the condo with no cuffs, just a ride back to the precinct. The silence in the car was thick with everything Tess didn't say. Griggs tried to find a crack, an opening, but Tess was locked down tight. She learned from her mom's boyfriend. Cops weren't friends. They were predators with badges, waiting to snag you on a loose word. So she kept her mouth shut, because she knew every word you say can and will be used against you. Her mom pulled up to the station in a rust-bitten Impala that coughed blue smoke when it idled. Tess was already waiting on the bench out front, arms crossed and eyes low. The car door slammed before the engine was even off. "What the hell were you thinking?" her mother snapped, voice sharp enough to cut concrete. "Meeting some grown-ass man off the damn internet? Are you trying to get yourself killed?" Tess didn't flinch. She just stood up slow, slung her backpack over her shoulder, and walked around to the passenger side. Her mother blocked her path. "You think this is a joke? You think this is some kind of game? Jeez, Tess, you could have ended up in a ditch." Tess looked at her for the first time, eyes tired. I guess I have my mom's taste in men. That shut her up. The ride home was quiet. Tess sat with her face turned toward the window, watching the night smear by. Neon signs and strip malls, liquor stores and payday loans, the same streets that raised her. It had been a close call. Too close. She knew the cop, Griggs, wasn't going to back off. She saw too much, and she didn't blink. Tess had taken out 5 of them. 5 less monsters whispering through headsets and hiding behind avatars. Maybe that was enough. Maybe it had to be. 7 years. That's how long the case file had gathered dust, tucked into the mental drawer Marla Griggs labeled unfinished business. She told herself it didn't matter anymore. She'd moved up, made the jump from city cop to federal agent. She wore a better badge, but still carried the heavy nightmares. And Tess Morgan haunted her the most. Not because Griggs wanted Tess behind bars. Hell, if she was honest, she was kind of rooting for the girl. But pride's a bitch, and so is obsession. And this case still lived like a sliver under the skin, refusing to work its way out. Then the killing started again. Not the same, bigger, bolder, nationwide. Men found dead in motels, in cars, in empty apartments. All predators, all groomers, all filth. All shot with 22 subsonic rounds. Only now it wasn't 5 bodies, it was hundreds. Local departments were drowning in files. The press whispered about a vigilante network. Twitter called them the watchdogs, and Reddit made it a movement. But Griggs knew. It started with Tess Morgan. Maybe she wasn't pulling the trigger anymore, but this was her design, her blueprint. So Marla found herself back in San Antonio, standing near a Panda Express in the mall food court, staring at a woman with soft features and hard eyes. Tess Morgan, now 21, smarter, sharper, clean, running a non-profit for abused kids, glowing press, a TED Talk, Instagram full of advocacy and sunlit smiles. Tess was halfway through her orange chicken when Agent Griggs slid into the seat across from her. No warning, no pleasantries, just a thick, official-looking envelope sliding across the table. "Open it at home, kiddo," she said finally, voice flat. "When you're alone." Before Tess could speak, Griggs dropped a second envelope beside the first, then walked away. Tess didn't touch the envelopes until hours later. Her apartment was silent, blinds drawn. She laid the 2 packages on the kitchen table and stared. She started with the first envelope. Inside were photos, grainy long lens shots, surveillance images of her in Germany, darker hair then, a scarf pulled around her chin, laughing with a man whose face had once been splashed across the Europol watch list. A hacker, a legend, the kind of guy who didn't get coffee unless it was encrypted. Next came the emails, printed, highlighted. She thought they were untraceable. She'd been wrong. Financial statements, crypto transactions, forum posts from onion-layered dark net boards that no normal search engine could ever touch. Griggs had everything, all the evidence she ever needed to bring Tess down. And she hadn't used it. Tess sat in silence. The weight of the second envelope made her stomach twist. She peeled it open carefully. Inside was the past. The small black pistol she had dropped into a McDonald's bathroom trash bin 7 years ago, wrapped tight in the same faded hoodie. Her prints long wiped, but the memory? That would have been enough. Griggs had recovered it, kept it. Beneath it lay a thin stack of papers, a file. The man who had ruined her sister's life, released early on parole, living in a new town. A flyer for the auto shop where he worked, surveillance photos, him walking his dog, buying beer, smiling at a waitress. And one last note in the same neat handwriting. "Do what you have to. I wanted to solve the case, but I never wanted to hurt you. I'm not looking anymore. MG." Tess sat for a long time, the silence pressing in, wrapping around her like a second skin. The pistol lay beside the letter, and outside, somewhere in the sprawl of South Texas, a monster walked free. The thing no one ever tells you about monsters is that they don't die in fairy tales. They move to smaller towns, change their names, buy dogs, wave at neighbors, and wait. Tess Morgan didn't hunt them for revenge anymore. She hunted them so the next girl wouldn't have to.